live buttons now, because, you know... oh, that's right, I can't...
Fast emote chat.
There we go. Fucking hamster. Yup. Hi, everybody. I probably have some kind of weird emote. I don't even know who I'm all subscribed to. Sometimes you get, like, those...
I have random ones, like... fucking Lola Pop.
Okay, my brain's finally making sense of what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see the gun, the booster, and the Mario hat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can stand back up now. I was just like getting super close to the screen. Because
It's chilled. It's chilled chaos. It's doing his thing.
These fucking emotes are weird.
He does? What is that Italian one?
I don't know, because he's Italian.
I know, but... Oh, it's the, like, hand.
It's the hand.
Oh, God.
I see, yeah.
Be proud of your heritage. In comical ways. Anyway. I'm being joined by Worm and Momo today.
Hello.
It is, of course, June 24th. And there's a bunch of things to talk about. Oh... So I wanted to talk about something to begin with, not as like a exact release topic, but as part of a release, because I've got to be honest, the more I hear about it, the more I'm like just disappointed this exists. Everything to do with this Lord of the Rings set that Wizards put out.
Is it the card, the one and only true ring bullshit, whatever?
It's the core of the issue, but it's sort of like, I can't complain, like, I don't think there's anything to complain about against the mechanics, the cards, or the art of the cards, or anything like that.
Yeah.
All that's fine.
Those all seem like pretty decent.
Yeah, so it's like the core of what this set is decent, it's just that it turns out what they've done has caused this ripple effect of badness. Like, the cards that cannot have this one-of-one ring, at one point, like, a little while ago, were going at a marked-up price for $180.
Well, you mean, who could have ever predicted that this would happen?
Yeah. That the individual cards, if you wanted to buy them, were nowhere near that value. Like, it's so mind-boggling that, like, yeah.
Is perhaps, like, releasing a one unique card in a single card pack somewhere in the world is a genuinely terrible idea.
And it's like the card is being offered for what, like someone wants to pay $2 million and a paella dinner or something is the last thing I heard.
I think that's the highest I've heard so far.
But we getting counterfeits?
There are plenty of counterfeits. I've seen that.
Yeah. We're already seeing those
so
now.
Wait. Hold on. So they basically have one card that they released in one random pack.
What they have in the, I guess, the collector box packs.
The collector box, which are, I'll state, are already their more expensive premium packs. Okay.
Basically, they released a version of the One Ring in Black Speech from Mordor in a random card pack in the collector's edition, and it's like just been a mess, which everyone predicted it would be, except for Hasbro apparently.
And the thing is, it also could possibly be in their, which hasn't been released yet, collector's edition gift bundle, which has a collector's pack in it, an actual collector's pack. So it could be in there, and a lot of people are thinking maybe it is just in there because the hype is a now and they don't want it to be released too early. But again,
I genuinely hope that this card is just never found.
Yeah, it might be for the best, but it's gonna...
I would love if, someone bought the pack and then, lost it down there, their dog ate it, and they're like, whatever.
Bought the pack, or a kid, because it's the stuff that happens, like a parent buys it for their kids, and, they see the collector's box, oh, that's cool, and the kid doesn't know what the card is, and just keeps it for, 30 years. Right? Because these are the things that can go wrong with that. And it's why you don't do promos like this.
It's...
Also,
you don't...
very little way to verify that it's real, aside from card stamp.
Yeah, limited runs are things that can work. Okay, there's 50. one or like probably like 10 of them are bound to turn up. You know, but yeah, there's just one, and so it's like the card itself is like a generic card, but only one of them has the black speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a shiny card with black speech on it.
And the thing is, there are other versions of it that are in English and stuff too, which aren't as expensive. You can just get this as a normal card in the set. It's just
honestly not even that good.
Yeah, it's just that in the entire set, they're like, we've made one in this extremely rare version. Go crazy.
I mean, the gimmick is funny, haha, it's a joke. There's only one ring, but like, it's just a marketing thing. All it's done is make scalpers buy card packs,
and it hasn't helped the price of the actual set. You know, it's just made buying cards from that set expensive. Yeah. Probably a lot of scalpers. Probably like it's. Like, the thing is, as collectors or people that play the game, it's probably caused this, like, weird influx of trouble between all of this stuff. You know?
Absolutely.
It's a mess. And, like, there's other little things, like, knowing that it's this, like, collector's booster gift bundle doesn't help, because there's people that are thinking that the bundles they have now have it in there. Because they already have a bundle out. You know, they've already got products out, but you don't know which has it. And then also, like, I was seeing someone talk, like, I was seeing them talk about, like, they also have these collector booster, like, starter things that they put into their commander decks. But if you look on the packaging, it says collector's booster on one line, and then, like, the whatever else it is that's also on the second line. So you would be remiss not to think that, oh, does this have a collector's booster in it also? So people are going to buy up the commander decks and, like, drive up their already expensive prices? It's
just genuinely been a terrible decision all around.
The one thing I think about with all this product vomit for this one thing is, it reminds me of the, like, Insanity Collector's Edition, Special Edition video game vomit that we have. You know, I don't think we have it as much anymore because physical copies kind of...
I mean, I do remember back in, like, I want to say, like, 2014, 2015, where for some games you needed, like, a full-on infographic to understand what was in what.
Yeah.
Right? We've moved past that. They usually only do, like, at most 2 collector's editions now. But, like, yeah, it was pretty bad.
But that's what it reminds me of. You need this infograph to, like, understand what's in all of these. And I've got to be honest, even then, because they have such weird, like, with a set now where you have, like, 20 different art, well, let's not say 20, but, like, half a dozen different type of prints you can have for the same card. And you don't know where they're all going to show up. Where's my full art? Where's my foil? Where's my full-out foil? Where's my, like, special gold stamp perfect one or something? And this is just the worst example of it, combined with the one-of-one ring stuff, and it's just blows my mind.
It's trying to maximize profits. Basically, that's what's happening here. And that's what they've always done. They try to maximize as much as they can get out of it.
It's literally just hey, everyone, buy as much of this as you can. There's only one. Good luck.
It's detrimental to the hobby, finally.
I think it is the thing I do agree with. It's sort of like, yeah, you can only do this so many times before people are never going to go along with it. I gotta be honest.
Say that, but the video game industry exists.
No. But there's, like, a huge portion of the actual player base that buy a lot of their products that'll probably get...
That's not who they're targeting for this, though.
I know.
These editions.
But it's sort of like the video game industry has a much larger player base. You can burn a lot of people and still have enough people to buy it. But I feel like, especially in a card space like this, where it is a lot more expensive and honestly a lot more money than for the return of a video game or something, a lot of times, it feels like it's not great for their own product.
This is the market where they released a box that cost $1,000 and people still bought it, right? Like, I don't have faith in consumers as much as you may have, because I've seen some truly stupid people in this world.
No, that's the problem with microtransactions is people still, do them. Even though they're kind of pointless and not worth it ever.
Yeah, absolutely. People are still going to do it.
Well, I guess it is unfortunately coming down and preying on the same people that a lot of times things like microtransactions play on. A lot of people that like the instantaneous kind of like little things and stuff like that, and the little endorphins from doing things around that.
The whales, they're called whales.
They do have terminology for this.
Yeah.
There's a whole industry presentation on how to actually abuse them.
But the thing is, most whales aren't like, I'm a rich person and doing it. They're like, I'm not a rich person.
This is why I'm incredibly anti-microtransaction.
Yeah, and I feel it's the same here. It's people that love the hobby, want to get into it, but can't afford all this shit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Magic has priced out a lot of people.
So, I don't know. I don't know what I feel like there's a bad thing for the future of Magic, but I don't know.
Well, it absolutely is. It's just going to happen with the next set, too. Right, like, this set will make enough money that they will just do it again.
I would
because
just...
Not only is it targeting the Magic fandom, it's also targeting the Lord of the Rings fandom.
The thing is, like, we've seen the Magic bubble burst before, and I think, like, will it happen again, then?
I mean, we literally just saw the Dungeons and Dragons bubble burst.
I think, personally, at this point, well, it is possible, it is unlikely to happen to the same degree that it happened before. Because the industry is now so large.
Yeah.
Same thing with the gaming industry is that there was a big bubble that burst a while back. That will probably never happen again just because how large the industry is.
I mean, the only way we're going to get rid of the only way we're going to get rid of microtransactions is through government.
Yeah, absolutely. It will take regulation to stop this.
Well, it's like,
which isn't really going to happen.
Well, I actually think it will eventually. I think we just need to get the people who don't understand what it is out of the office, but that's a whole nother problem is the people who are currently in charge of, like, 80 and don't understand what a video game is.
Yeah, old and senile.
Yes, there are a lot of old senile people in control of the world.
Like, this whole mess, it isn't somehow not the worst thing Wizards has done in this year alone. So, that says a lot.
I think that
I will say, though...
Go ahead.
This kind of thing with, like, smaller products. See, the problem with the video games is it's a industry-wide problem.
Oh, absolutely.
But things like this, like these little collectibles, these are usually spike up and down in little different pockets of consumerism that will make these kinds of things very hard to regulate. So these ones will probably be around to last.
These will never stop at this point.
It just gets me that, like, I take a look and I'm like, the thing you said about this not the worst thing Wizards did this year, and I'm like, maybe that's why this works on me so much. It's sort of like
even the worst thing they've done in the past 2 months. They sent the Pinkertons to a man's house.
Yeah.
And that's just the Magic section of Wizards, not Wizards as a whole.
I mean, it's the same CEO for both, unfortunately, or same leadership for a lot of them, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, same blanket, but I mean, it's Hasbro than Wizards, and that's causing all the problems right now.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, Hasbro as a whole seems to be okay. We're not seeing, major.
I think it is honestly
on baby toys.
I think it honestly is mostly Wizards, not Hasbro, because no other Hasbro subsidiary does this.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I think I want to leave that there, because honestly, this is just like,
we could talk for fucking hours on that topic.
This is just a topic on the slow descension to madness that is now...
just stop playing that together.
They've already spent, like 25 minutes on this.
Yeah.
It's the thing, I think it's the thing, it's a game I've loved for so many years.
No, sure.
I've probably put, like, honestly, at this point in time, thousands of dollars into it. So it's sort of like...
I'm, like, absolutely with you. You've heard my fucking rants on, like, Star Wars and shit.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is a lot of people do have that sunk cost fallacy mindset of like, I put so much into this, I can't just give it up.
Yeah.
Which is hard, and I get it.
It's like, I've gone cold turkey on the products before, certainly, so I don't think that's an issue. But it's like,
Yeah.
I would still like for the game I love to stay around, so it's not like going extinct and no longer making product. I think that's a little bit of it too nowadays.
I think it will, and I think I don't think it will ever die. I think people just need to like make it clear that they're not interested in what they're doing by not buying product for a little while. And that's the thing, there will always be enough people to keep it afloat, but if they make less money and their profits go down, then they'll change, and hopefully that change will be for the better and not for the worse, which...
Absolutely.
Anyway. Let's talk about something more positive, because I need that. Hey, Paizo's already informed us what their two, just basically information on it, is their two free RPG Day adventures. We know some basic outline of them, when they're coming out. So, free RPG Day, Pathfinder Ventures, A Few More Flowers, and Operation Seaside Park for Starfinder. These are, every time they put these out, these are fun little adventures. Honestly, they're really neat and kind of fun, and, you know, certainly I would and they do eventually put them out just for free on their site if you miss Free RPG Day, where you can't get a copy of it, so, you know, we know what's upcoming for it. I just want to say that. It's a nice little thing.
Oh, on June 24th, that's today.
It is today.
Oh, fucking, it's free RPG.
Today is for RPG.
Oh my god. I just it's like right in front of me, and I don't see it. It's that is pretty bad. It is actually...
I'm like, oh, when is it? On June 24th. I'm like, wait a second.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm glad someone...
If you go to a store and get a copy of it now, or it'll be up online soon. So, I just, when I was looking at it, I'm like, this is coming up soon, and I'm like, the brain is just like, oh, it's soon as now.
I mean, this article came out yesterday, so I get it.
Article is a day old.
PDF version will be available on the 3rd. You can print all that version for $5. So, anyway. So, moving on to just something that seems unusual, but is a thing. Come On Games is doing a version of their Zombicide game that's Monty Python.
And that's fair enough, honestly.
Is it like zombie Monty Python, or just like...
I assume it's the Monty Python characters fighting zombies.
That's just a little weird.
There are iconic Monty Python characters. People do tend to forget.
That's true. From Flying Circus, it's like, you know, and some of the movies.
It's not like the most. It's not like a big thing in America.
Yeah.
At least the movies were, but I thought pretty big.
And it's the joke that, you know, the enemies are not really dead, they're pinning. You know, it's not really dead.
Yeah, so it is the characters that are,
okay.
Yeah, like, the nude organist and the silly walkers.
The silly walkers, the Spanish Inquisition, Hell's Grannies. Those are all
the dead parrot.
The parrot, yep.
God. So yeah. Definitely, if you...
Apparently the Spanish Inquisition is like an event card or something.
Look, you know, it's silly. Honestly...
they're also little characters.
Yeah. I've definitely... It's sort of like Zombicide's one of those games that I wouldn't have seen something like this for, but it's kind of interesting that they're doing it, honestly. Unusual, but interesting, and I guess if you had enjoyed Zombicide and/or enjoyed Monty Python, it might be a thing to check out.
Apparently the giant foot is a character. Is also.
Oh yeah, that's like the classic one that everyone knows. Giant foot. That's how they end like every show or something.
Yeah, it all squishes on top.
In their intro, it squishes them all.
I need to watch Monty Python. I've only
So
seen Monty Python and Holy Grail and a few clips.
Life of Brian holds up really well. The other one, The Meaning of Life, really does not hold up.
Yeah.
That one aged really bad.
Flying Circus is a mixed bag because it's a sketch show over seasons.
Yeah.
So, like, if I would recommend if you were going to check out, like, Flying Circus, just look up best sketches or best episodes.
You just look at the best sketches.
Like, I've seen a few Flying Circus sketches, and basically the Holy Grail, and that's about it.
Yeah, like, Spanish Inquisition's always a wonderful sketch. It's very
always a good one, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that one, so.
Yeah, but, so there's...
The Spanish Inquisition and the philosophy ancient Greece one, I forget what that one's called.
Yeah, the Spam one is a classic.
Yeah. So, anyway, yes, Monty Python. It's, some of it still holds up, and some of it's still classic.
That's just the tragedy of comedy, is a lot of it does not hold up.
Yeah, very true.
A lot of it, I mean, that's kind of the thing about comedy, is a lot of it is of the time.
Yep, you gotta go in with that knowing that this is of a different era.
Yeah.
And these modern sensibilities may not fit the media.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, if you're already exposed to it, great. Or exposed to comedy of the time, you might get it. More modern
if you think about it, yeah, I was about to say, if you think about it in that way, things that we do nowadays may not be sensible for back then. So
yeah.
That's true. All right.
Culture changes.
Interestingly enough, because I think this is the first time, maybe the second time on this show I've ever brought up the existence of LARPing.
It's a thing that people do.
It's a thing people do. But,
I know a few people who do it.
Yeah.
I've been invited to two, but I've never actually done it.
I have done a little bit with my friends, and then just as like we tried it out, and then as for professional, a friend of mine was going to, in fact, the Vampire the Masquerade LARP, and we went along the one time. I made fun of it a lot because it was very silly. You obfuscate. Just like I said,
there is an inherent silliness to it.
It's just we could not help it, but
it's like it's very fun.
Yeah. Now, because both of the times I was invited to a LARP, they required a costume, and I'm like, that's too much effort.
As I recall, it was Joe and I went to it with a friend of ours who was kind of had the like a crush or something on someone that was there and wanted to see that, but wanted some people with him because it was traveling a little bit. So anyway. But Renegade Game Studios is partnered by Night Studios, which I believe is a group that does LARPing stuff. They might have done some earlier, because that name sounds familiar. I have to check it here. That they might have done the earlier LARPs by Night Studios.
They do LARPs. They do. I think they do Vampire.
They might have done the original Vampire, and now it's sort of like official that they'd be doing 5e Vampire LARPing. And the Mind's Eye Theater stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think that's good, because this is like, ensuring that the LARP and RPG are again connected, which is one of those good things I think was about the original editions of a lot of World of Darkness stuff, is there was a deep connection, especially the Vampire, between the stuff that was kind of going on in the LARP and the normal RPG. So you could enjoy the game either way. So I'm not really against the idea that they're doing the same thing. They've put out books for decades for this kind of stuff.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
So basically they just are like, it's basically just like a side set of rules that are like to go along with like, if you're doing this as a LARP kind of thing.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it, I mean...
No, that actually is a good idea.
It's a good idea to market to this. Because people do very much enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's like... people were playing, probably still to this day, with the older editions of the rules, and now they're like, oh, now we have a 5th edition version of this LARP rules. Cool. You know, we're updating it. Good for them. And, you know, supporting the company that's been doing it forever now. I knew I remembered By Night Studios. They're the people that have been doing Mind's Eye forever. I can link their website too.
They do have a website.
Yeah, I'll just link that too. So
That's really dope pins on it.
if you want to check their site out, if experimenting with LARPing or learning about it is up to you. But the new V5 stuff will be coming out. So apparently they're having some kind of experience, Darkness Emergent, on November 2nd through 5th in San Antonio.
I don't know, like, it looks like Day of the Dead stuff, which is pretty cool.
That's the thing is, like, again, I have very little experience with the vampire LARP.
I genuinely have never dived into anything vampire related outside of the one video game. So, like, this is very much out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah. LARPing is interesting, you know, if you're, it's a different kind of beast. Definitely.
Yeah, it's very different. And personally, it's not for me. I personally have never seen a LARP that wasn't the most cringy thing I've ever watched in my entire life, but I know people who very much enjoy it, and I don't judge them for it.
See, that's why, like, I had a much better time when I just did some things with my friends, where we just kind of, it was more hanging out at a park and, you know, being creative than an actual professional thing. There's a difference between those two things. Anyway. Speaking of, can I say Blast from the Past? Sure, we'll call it Blast from the Past.
You can't really call it that when it ended like 2 years ago.
No, it's not
for like 10 years.
It's on for so long. Anyway, Cryptozoic of all companies is doing an Adventure Time RPG. I don't know. I know they've done an RPG before, but I can't remember what. But Cryptozoic does some board game stuff, but they're really known for a lot of like other weird products that are like licensed stuff. They do a lot of like, you know, like little figures for like DC and stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's not that they don't have role-playing games. Again, I'm pretty sure they've done one in the past. It's just rare. Their handling of brands is something that I'm not like, okay, they couldn't do that. But it's also like, again, I'm curious about like how well they're going to do, because again, they're not like as well, in my eyes, proven as an RPG company. Tabletop company, yes, but they're different beasts.
That's fair.
And then you are correct about the thing about it is, it has been a few years since Adventure Time ended, and certainly I don't think it's nowhere near the heyday of it. Doesn't mean you couldn't have an RPG about it.
Getting some spin-offs, so it might be like still relevant.
Okay. Basically, there's with more stuff that kind of might be floating around in its wheelhouse.
I don't know much about Adventure Time, other than like it has some of the best LGBT rep ever fucking made in the cartoon. I just know it was on for way too long, and I stopped watching after like season 4.
Actually, I actually think this is their first. I can't find anything else about RPGs from them.
I thought they might have done one, but maybe it was a different company.
Even in their own system, the only thing tagged RPG is this one.
Yeah, it might be their first then.
It could be cool. The Adventure Time world, from my understanding, is very fun and cool with a lot of weird lore. So.
God, I cannot spell today. I've said that earlier, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting world, nonetheless.
It's an enjoyable cartoon, at least from the 4 seasons I've seen, and I've heard nothing like ever bad about it.
Yeah.
No, as far as I hear, it's actually kind of like, it's really good and actually in some ways like depressing.
Yeah.
Well, it starts. Go ahead.
I know there's a couple of episodes that are full of the Evangelion references, which I find personally very strange.
And spoilers for an early on season, it starts out looking like it's just a fantasy.
Yep. Adventure Time is one of our favorite properties, so it was the perfect choice for our first role-playing game.
Yeah,
Okay. But I was going to say, what was I going to say? Oh, it starts out looking like just like a common fantasy, but then it's like also it's technically Earth and in a weird magical post-apocalyptic future.
Yep. It has some deep lore.
Yeah. So that it's weird, but that could lead to a lot of good adventures, honestly. So if they do it right, it could be pretty fun.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, people love the world, so
Yeah.
It was very popular. It remained like consistently popular up until it stopped.
They will be doing a Kickstarter for it soonish. Some point soon.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's talk about Games Workshop, because we rarely do. I mean,
You know,
it's fine. It's free. They've got an all new Warhammer 40K app that they're putting out for free. So it's a streamlined, enhanced player experience, assists on the creation of armies, simply look up game rules. Honestly, really great stuff for an app. You know?
yeah. I mean, I can't wait for this official product to be banned at tournaments, because tournaments get really fucking uppity if you don't own a book. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty cool.
The cynicism in that just feels so...
Games Workshop
Wait,
sucks. I'm just going to
tournaments
say,
what? If you don't have a book?
if you don't own a book, tournaments will not let you compete if you don't own a core book. You cannot bring in like reference sheets or anything. You have to bring in a full-ass core book.
You can bring in a cool rule book and reference sheets.
Nope,
though, right?
you can't have any reference sheets. You just have to have the rule. Yeah, the official tournaments are really fucking strict with what you can bring. You can't bring
That
anything
is
you
so
3D printed
weird.
yourself either. You have to use official models only.
Okay, and these are, I'm guessing, all run by Games Workshop.
Yes, Games Workshop
Yeah, that makes sense.
models are also notoriously very, very expensive.
Well, yeah, I know that. I know that's why, like, yeah.
Forget my cynicism of anything related to this company. I have many
No,
bad experiences with Games Workshop.
I mean, there's a reason why when, like, Wizards started doing something, there was that age-old meme of, like, from The Simpsons release, it was, like, on, like, a lawnmower, and it's like, Games Workshop, no! And then it's all like, what? Bart's right behind her, and it's all like, sorry, force of habit.
It really is. You just expect anything from them to be bad at this point. Well, I mean, this is good. It helps you build armies, which is nice, because the point system can be a little finicky to understand perfectly.
As you know,
Describing memes, the way to ruin them.
I was gonna say it does remind me of my experience in the miniatures thing, which was again the old D&D miniatures from honestly over a decade ago, and trying to like, oh, you have to build a warband with all these points things. An app like this would have been wonderful. So I can understand how something that is infinitesimally larger with so many more products could be even more confusing. So
Yeah. No, part of me has always wanted to try this. I obviously don't want to bother with all the in-person stuff. I'd love to, like, do something on, like, Roll20, though. I bet you could totally do, like, something like this.
You
on
could
Roll20.
probably easily do it on a virtual tabletop. Look, I got to
Yeah,
do it
that's-
because my fire siren is going off goodbye.
okay.
All right, yeah. So, yeah, but that's something I've always wanted to try this kind of stuff. But like, part of me is also like, the whole culture around this is buy the stuff, and I'm just all like, no, I just want to. It looks fun, and I want to play war games. But I don't want to have to buy things to try it.
Oh god. It also the problem is I'm reading more on this, and I'm just a little bit also like I can see why the Games Workshop is bad, because there's like, it's free right now, and then
They
they're
will
going
absolutely stuff this fucking thing with microtransactions.
yeah, it's going to have pay stuff. The core rules and combat patrol data ships will continue to be free, but there's a lot of other stuff we're going to add in that's going to be costly. Oh. Yep. Games Workshop.
This is the same company that sells unit packs for like $100, and they're units that do not physically function together at all.
What? That's kind of silly and terrible, but anyway. So apparently the older version will not immediately be going away, but this is their new quotations better version, so we'll see. Anyway, let's talk about something interesting. Let me click on this. Yeah, here it is. So the backer kit for this is up, but the game itself is not yet launched for supporting it. But they are doing a version of a single-player RPG as multiplayer. I hadn't heard much about it, because I don't talk usually a lot about the solo RPGs, because it's a very different kind of market. Also, it's one of those ones that doesn't always necessarily, but their 1,000-Year Vampire was a very award-winning one, and they're doing this 500-year-old vampire, which is a multiplayer adaptation of it. So, I guess it's meant for a way that because it's a single player, it would be meant to be played without a GM, and I assume it's still going to be played without a GM. And it's that it says that it's like you navigate random prompts, answer from the vampire's perspective, player-created artifacts, rules for multiplayer vampire cohorts. So, yeah. It's a 3 to 5 player role-playing game about memory, death, loss, art, everlasting life, suitable for both casual play and apparently classroom use for Central Michigan University Press? What? Is that people? Why are they specifically mentioning them? I don't know. Oh, because I guess someone there is producing it? I guess?
Oh, yeah, by Central Michigan University Press.
Ah! I guess if you're at the school, they're like, hey, go ahead and check it out. Interesting. But, no, I thought this was a kind of cool thing to see that they're doing. These, single-player experiences are always so interesting to me, but it's like one of those things that's like, it's a very different beast than your traditional role-playing game. Since they are very well meant to be just almost like a one-and-done experience, you're playing against yourself almost for creativity. And it's always been sort of hard for me, because it's sort of like, I understand there's a lot of people that get into things like Solitaire and those games like that, and there are plenty of video games you can play on your own, but it always takes me like a level to connect with a game like this, personally. Mm-hmm. So, to have that same experience, but people play people? That might be what draws me in?
I like the idea of these kinds of things because they're really good for idea generation. Mm-hmm. I have a very hard time making things up in a vacuum, and I always need prompts, which is why I'm always like, I'm always looking for something to make things use it. Like last week I mentioned I was reading a book about, or reading an RPG book called Dynasties about the, it was basically rules for running things against each other. And I'm like, I need that because part of me doesn't want to just say all the time, this one wins. Because in my mind, it's like I get kind of complacent. Whereas I'm like, I need something, and then I can describe what happens based off of what these random rules might do. And rules for that help. And so that's kind of something I've always kind of looked for, just because my creativity is very much not...
I actually really understand that, because it's sort of like, just with a simple prompt, you just keep it simple, while if you're given this thing by a random roll, it gives you an idea of like, oh, what do I mean by this? What does this mean? What do I develop this? Why is this here? It makes you ask more questions to your random roll than to just stay with this status quo and just kind of toe the line, because then it's just, this is there. I get that creativity.
Yeah, because it's like, I think people I've had people comment on some previous games of mine that like sometimes my worlds seem a little static and that they don't change a lot, and that's why, because I'm like, this person's doing this over here, and then this person's doing this over here, but that's really all that's going on, and I don't think, like, yeah. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm having trouble describing it, but yeah, it is kind of just... It helps. I've learned that I'm going to need these tools if I'm going to become better at jamming.
Yeah.
And these things can be fun to play with some people.
I don't really have an opinion on like solo RPGs because I don't personally get it.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Honestly,
I can't get my brain to work with that personally.
I totally get why people don't get it. If yeah, again, like it is funny because it's like you can just tell it's like that raw creativity isn't my thing, and so it's like I really kind of like these things. Is like, and I totally get why most people like. I was actually talking to my brother who's like a musician, and he was like, I was talking to them, and they're like, yeah, no, it's just so hard when like you get that thing and you just can't turn it off, and you have to go. And I'm all like, that's a thing people have. I don't get that. I can actually just bookmark my thought and pick it back up later when I have time. I've never, like, gotten this creativity flow. So it's kind of realized, I'm like, people are just different.
Our creative brains work very different.
So, this is a fun little thing that you can do with people. It's taking a single-player thing, making it a collaborative experience, but keeping the essence of the single-player experience, which is, I guess, good for fans of one, because then you can kind of transition. So I guess it's meant to allow more people to experience the type of game for what we're saying, that everybody's creative in different ways, and certainly there's plenty of people that could play this on their own, but when you open up to, hey, maybe I need someone else to bounce things off of, here you go. So I think it's a good thing that we're getting this. Speaking of RPGs, because I got a few more topics for us to hit upon, let's talk about some superheroes, because that's always fun. With a Longshot City, which is funded on Kickstarter. We're a team of baddie-bashing buddies in an area working together, Longshot City. A hero team from a selection of archetypes and origins, meant to kind of build that you have a lot of variety in your team-based things. There are rules that allow for some like sci fantasy RPG kind of. I guess the sci fantasy RPG Trochia. It's based on the rules from that. So it probably is relatively. I don't know how compatible with that kind of stuff, but probably if you're familiar with that game. I've heard of that game. I don't know much about it. The name familiar. I don't know where I heard it. So there's a lot happens sometimes these games. I hear about something and then I'm like, okay, and it files away in my brain somewhere. Anyway, 36 archetypes, 36 origins, and then they've got 24 arch nemesises, and nemesis, in their motives and methods system. Basically, make a big old way of making a lot of different interesting enemies for your people, and a bunch of other stuff to set up the game. So,
city map. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Honestly,
it's like a mix between a role-playing game and a board game.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing about this one is it feels a lot more contained than a lot of superhero RPGs. A lot of times these superhero RPGs are going to be just like, they are very big in scope. Like, I'm building a superhero, our team's going to be the next X-Men, or one of us is going to be the Justice League or something,
They try and set it up to, like, you can build any selection of superpowered groups you want. And it's all like, that's a lot of rules.
And I'm not saying this doesn't have that, probably with its archetypes and origins and stuff like that. But since it feels like it feels much more, you're in this one city doing things. You're the Bat family of the city rather than the Justice League, which,
Oh, yeah, you're thinking of scope. Okay, yeah, scope.
Scope is something that a lot of superhero RPGs unfortunately do very big rather than, reasonable sometimes. I think is something that I've always had a little bit of an issue with. I like them, but scope is never really defined well in a lot of them. So something with a little bit...
I mean, like... Yeah, like, Superman's got one city, and then Batman's got one city, but when they come together, it's versus the universe.
Yeah, and it's because both Metropolis and Gotham are right next to each other.
This joke will never get old, ever, except until, like, 20 years from now when no one remembers the movie.
Dude, I don't think people even remember that fucking movie now.
Which movie?
Exactly.
That one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Where
I
they
haven't
made...
seen that one. So
With-
I didn't
It's
realize
not
they were
good.
right next to each other.
They
Yeah,
are literally right next to each other.
They're
in
like...
that movie.
they're across a river. It's
Yeah.
that's pretty bad. When...
I'm guessing the joke is because they are both based on New York City.
Yeah. Anyway, if you do like superheroes / superhero RPGs, this might be one to check out for you, especially because it's another take on it that might be more in a style you enjoy. It's funded 25 days to go, so I can give a shout out to it, and it looks like they've changed how this looks a little bit here on the pledge side for Kickstarter. I just noticed that now.
It's got like a picture now.
Yeah. Anyway, $17 for the PDF. Anyway, so,
It's not too bad.
anyway, let's talk about Green Ronin Press, because apparently they've been doing some kind of secret project of some kind that, yeah, secret projects. And now they've actually revealed stuff about secret project. They've been developing what they called Sword of the Shadow Planet.
A bit wordy of a name.
Yes. Apparently, it was originally teased in 2019, but because of things that happened in the next years, kind of disappeared into the ether. What could have happened, So, now, we're getting the announcement that they're, a little bit more about this after 4 years? Jesus. So they're using it's an RPG. They're using a system that they've used before. It's not their adventure ending, 5e, Pathfinder, Mutants and Masterminds, or other kind of D20. It sometimes uses D20, but not. So that's not really a great hint, because they eliminated...
Maybe the most confusing press release.
Yeah, it's being vague. Yeah, so it uses a system we've used in RPGs before, but isn't the adventure game engine, 5e, Pathfinder, M&M...
Mutants and Mastermind, or D20. Yeah, I'm for D20.
Yeah. They've literally told me a lot of things that tell me nothing.
they are being super vague, other than this is what it's called.
System.
Sorry,
I almost want to look into this. I wish you said this sooner. I would have had a whole theory map finished by this time.
Okay.
Apparently an OSR, which that markets me out of it because I hate OSRs.
What's the OSR games?
Full Renaissance. It's like.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
I've heard that, and
deadly.
it keeps breaking my brain.
It's the kind of games where you just die in 2 hits.
Yeah. But apparently it's more on the weird problem solving, not so much the nostalgia. I don't know what that means.
Man, this press release tells you.
Freeform magic, certain values of magic.
Yeah.
Any character can use.
It has no classes, apparently, which, that's fine.
You can play a Neanderthal, or someone made of rock, or a dinosaur.
Okay.
I'm guessing that's what the bear is. The bear is probably a player.
It's not a generic game, but you have rock people, dinosaurs, Neanderthal, or people that might be specifically you in the setting. What?
It's not a... No, rock people, dinosaurs, Neanderthals, and even people like you each have specific roles in the setting.
When your press release is a fucking logic puzzle, you can just not
I love this so much.
And I will not read it, nor will I care.
I love this so much.
This is the opposite of how you are meant to market something.
It's true, it really is. I
also love how I have the exact opposite reaction.
No,
Both of you
I'm in the middle. I'm sitting this and I'm just confused.
Okay. We got the spectrum.
Yeah. So we have dislike, love, and confusion. This is what this press release is creating.
It's like when Todd Howard came on the stage and said Elder Scrolls 6 was a game, and then showed a mountain and then left.
Okay, so they're like, when Cthulhu Awakened started with the premise, what if you make Cthulhu mythos in a setting in a modern day? This one asked the same question about another subgenre well known for its roots in the past.
Just say the things you mean.
Is it like, what if we made a Western in the modern day? What if we made a blank in the modern day? What?
Let's see.
They've got an image that you can see.
I'm assuming by the image it's fantasy, but also there's sci-fi stuff in the background, so God only knows.
Yeah, the person's got a sword and some kind of, like, I guess, laser gun or something, and beheading a lizard man.
Guy's making a fucking galaxy hurricane. There's a bear. These are, like, lizard orcs.
Is this like, 60s weird fantasy sci-fi? Is that what we're talking about?
This is very reminiscent of, like, 1960s pulp fiction.
Yeah. It's like 60s weird shit, you know? That's almost what it feels like. Oh my god. Anyway, after 4 years, we know something more.
We know it has a name.
It's got a name. That's
in
it.
the past.
Alright. Anyway, I'm just gonna move on. Anyway, talk about another...
I might do some digging. If I figure anything out, I'll let you know next week.
Thanks. Let's talk about, this name is weird. From the people that brought us, I think it was like, is it Borg or something?
Yeah, Borg spin-off.
Pirate Borg. So, you know, god damn it, they mentioned September 19th as Talking a Pirate Day. I made that joke earlier today. God damn it.
Yeah, that is September 19th.
They stole my joke. Anyway, it's actually set to be released on September 19th. Damn it, good marketing. And it's PZF's sneak peek at Gen Con. It's a pirate adventure based on their Borg system, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Honestly, pirate adventures can be fun. We've seen that in Skulls and Shackles.
Oh, they'd let you fucking be a pirate.
It can be fun. Can be.
And I'm not in a fucking government meeting for 3 goddamn hours instead of doing pirate things.
Oh, we're being spies now.
I want to point out that there's a little picture here that shows like a kraken and like a shark, and it gives stats, and it says if melee combat, and then the other one is if naval combat, and it's a kraken.
I mean, it's got, if you look closely, it's got a little guy, like a stick figure with a spear, leaping towards the kraken, so I understand the melee combat. He's Hell's Harding it.
HP 200 for melee combat, HP 48 for naval. The Undead Megalodon has 40 HP melee and 8 naval.
I'm gonna ask a question here. I kinda want to see if they do good ship combat.
No one has ever done good ship combat.
That's the problem. Yes, it's true. No one has.
I saw something that was a very good attempt at good spaceship combat, but man, it basically required you to understand actual space.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Which made it bad. For anyone but me.
Yeah, you know, my ship combat is perfect and flawless. I'm gonna press X to doubt.
Your ship combat, I think we did one time, because we were on a ship like one time in combat, and that was kind of it.
So
yeah, no, the ship combat I saw was all like it was really good in like certain concepts, but like it like required you to keep track of continuing movement in space.
So, 166 page book. Do you need the original Borg book? Is the question. I don't know if they mentioned that.
Probably not.
Yeah. It's got 8 classes, 18 vessels, 80 NPCs and monsters, 90+ system agnostic tables. I assume that means you could use them in like Borg or some of the other spin-offs. And a sandbox-style adventure with 11 pirate-themed locations called Curse of the Skeleton Point. Neat. Again, maybe this is the pirate adventures for you. If you want some pirating RPG adventures. Free League Press... Okay, go ahead.
I just said potentially.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, Free League Press does do a pretty good job with a lot of their RPGs and stuff, so... They've got a good rep for this kind of stuff, at least. At least, it's unique systems, so... I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Keep an eye out if you're interested in it. Talk Like a Pirate Day is when it's going to have its international, or its debut, physically. If you go to Gen Con, you can see it early there for a sneak peek. Anyway. Final main topic for today is, of course, something from Modiphius. The Dreams and Machines starter set. For Dreams and Machines. Anyway. That is a heck of a link on that one.
Link.
That is, like, obnoxiously long link on that one. I just didn't notice it was.
That's it long.
So, it is a 2D20 system. And, this is their starter thing. They are going to be doing... there's a quick start PDF that you can receive, the final set PDF. Okay, shipping's on the 2023, and there's a quick start PDF. It's an RPG. God damn it!
It's a 2D20 RPG about giant robots.
Thank you. I think the press release from Ronin has just destroyed my brain.
I can only let you embarrass yourself so much before I have to step in.
I think that press release earlier has destroyed my brain even more than normal today. So it's on vast distance from Earth, human colony. Kind of had a terrible event there. Rebuilding it, robots, AIs, a lot of stuff like that. It's a 2D20 system, which you're relatively pretty. Most of them are pretty good. I'm going to admit.
Yeah, not like genuinely pretty good.
Yeah. So honestly, for them to explore a different kind of setting and one that feels a little bit more unique. Not that I mind when they do like the Fallout RPG and Star Trek and their Conan and Dune and stuff like that. There are a lot of these 2D20 systems. They're set in already existing worlds. Something unique and on their own, I feel like, is a little bit more interesting to explore sometimes. So I'm glad they're doing it.
They do have a space RPG.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it's not their first dabble into hard sci-fi.
Yeah. So yeah. It's a new science it's a sci fantasy. It's supposed to be kind of too. So sci fantasy IP that you can check out. It will also have a debut at Gen Con coming up. And then, of course, this is the starter set, which will be available in August. Probably, I'm assuming after Gen Con.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would hazard a guess to say most likely.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in it, there'll probably be board books and stuff for it in the future. Modiphius does a good job for supporting a lot of their RPG series over long periods of time. Alright. We can talk about our week in tabletop while I think of a topic for us to talk about today.
We definitely had week in tabletop.
You do anything on Sunday?
Sunday. Oh yeah, we did have a session on Sunday where we made Jay have to prep an entirely different planet. Because we decided not to go to the planet. We've also collectively decided we're just going to gaslight Cell into... He wasn't there for that session. So we are just going to gaslight Cell that we are on the planet he wanted to go to instead.
Good times.
We're going to see how long it takes him to figure it out.
Good times. Worm, did you do anything on a Sunday?
No, like again, I basically just read RPG books all week.
Okay. How about Monday? Anything on a Monday?
Nope.
Tuesday?
Nope.
I had Buccaneers this week. I ran it. It was fine. I think the best thing is I knew I was kind of off at the end of the night when I was actually like thought about the end of the session, and it was kind of like this weird blur in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I knew like my brain was just frizzled or something was wrong at that point in time. I know I was bringing in like, oh hey, you have a conquer bar that's been there the entire time that we all forget about. But other than that, it's just sort of like
You have a gnome now.
a no man and I'm brain fried otherwise for me personally. Whoop. But you saw like a secret weapon, did some spy work, set up to break into a place, and started breaking into it. And that's kind of where we left off.
More crime.
You'll probably be finishing spy work next time. I gotta be honest, and moving on to a lot of other stuff. And then maybe like 1 or 2 sessions of a then probably assembling some kind of fleet, and then like 1 or 2 sessions of an actual battle, because I'm honest, I'm going to skip over 95% of that ship battle and just let you like, if you set up good and do good plans, I'll just be like, yay, they work, you know, because
Okay.
I don't want to deal with that otherwise. Not again.
No one wants to do Pathfinder ship combat, and the thing you wrote, well, it was good, did take 4 sessions basically.
And I don't want to write it again.
Yeah, you have to rewrite so much.
I did my best just to make something that would replace it, because it was a major event and a big chunk of the book, and I just, let's skip over it, and then I can get into the like final parts here, but I've got plans, sort of. We'll work those out. We'll see how well those go. I have no idea how long that's going to go, but hopefully not insane amount of length.
So I think I figured out a piece of that riddle. Sorry, going back to that.
You've dived deep into Green Ronin Press's insanity. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, the spot where it says where Cthulhu Awakens started with the premise, what if we made Cthulhu Mythos game set in the modern day? This one asks the same question about another subgenre well known for its roots in the past. So my thought is, what if we put Conan the Barbarian in the future?
I mean, they might. I think he's already done that, to be fair.
That's my best guess, though.
I mean, that kind of Conan-style fantasy, and actually the old Conan comic-style fantasy, which is a kind of genre, seeing it mixed with like a futuristic sci-fi kind of thing. What is it? Oh my god,
Based on the picture in the front, that's my best guess.
What is? It's the Hanna-Barbera cartoon about the weird future with the guy and the monkey man and the lady. I know this. It's Thundar the Barbarian.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Fucking hell. I remember that. Thanks, Cartoon Network, and your old Hanna-Barbera reruns that you had for many years in early days of it. I remember more Hanna-Barbera stuff than I probably should, because it was from way before my time. Anyway, that was Wednesday. How did Thursday goes?
Thursday went fine. They did some investigating. They learned some things. They made contact with people. Lightning's character turned into a raccoon and ate a poisonous flower and was almost dead for an hour. You know, just the normal things that happen in a D&D game. So all in all, went pretty well. I'm gonna go have a warehouse fight next session. I didn't expect them to go to the warehouse, so I had to scramble and end the session so I could make the encounter. So I figured they would go to the debris field a little bit further outside of town, but no, they decided they wanted to go to the warehouse first, which is fine. I should have really prepped it, but I was busy this week. That's my excuse.
I mean, you did have
definitely a new career.
You've got a new job. That's a good excuse for being busy. So
I was very busy this week, so I didn't prep things I should have. But it went fine. I'm testing out new rule sets and stuff in this game. And then next game we're going to blow up the planet.
Ah. Awesome. So, I figured out a deeper discussion topic today because it's based upon something that we already hinted a little bit on. I wanted to talk about what it means for us, for not just doing it, but these kinds of things. LARPs and other forms of role-playing. Because we've talked about two other forms of role-playing today. Single-player, LARPs. And it's sort of like, these are expressions of role-playing that exist outside of our a lot of normal wheelhouses. Certainly, LARPs take a lot of forms, too. You could have something like the Vampire LARP, which I gotta honestly be like is pretty silly. You could have those that do like, there's a form of that kind of exists in like the foam weapon people. I had a little bit experience with those people too, many years ago, where you make those like foam weapons and with a PVC pipe in the middle, and you know, like you fight it out with them. And generally there can be rules and role-playing associated with that too. But again, it can come down to like you smack people with each other with like some stuff, and that's kind of just silly. Just remember to remove the tips from your arrows and just, you know, blunt them. Healthy tip. That was a thing that happened. Someone.
Yeah, we want a healthy tip, not an unhealthy tip to your arrow.
And that's one form of it. And certainly, like, you know, the single-player experience, as we talked about, where, like, if it's a thing you can get your head around and it's your kind of game also, it's a different experience for role-playing. Is there other types of stuff like this that I can't think of that would be good to kind of talk about, too?
In miniatures gaming, often people will role-play campaigns up.
That's true.
Yeah, like that is something I was actually kind of my brain is going towards, is wargaming. A lot of people will actually like role-play basically what's happening in the background and set up these wars.
Yeah.
It's like,
it is something
it's actually very common.
I have personally taken part in this for Star Wars Armada.
And I guess we've talked about it kind of too, now that I think about it, with something like, which I guess because it has an RPG proper, that was evolution of it. The Fallout Wasteland Warfare is the one that always comes to mind, because that was the first time that I really thought about that. You know, when they came front and center with Modiphius doing that. But that is a prime example of a very different form of role-playing that is a war game related to it. And I guess that comes down to, if we would talk about that, like old school BattleTech, you know, that's very war gamey. You're playing with like, that's really works on having to have miniatures and stuff to play that. I think it's just the fact that, like, as much as the role-playing game genre is very large, and there's a lot of, like, expressions of it, certainly, it, like, comes down to just the major differences between something like the pen and paper that we talk about all the time, and going to something very... It's like, the two main forms are pen and paper and electronic. Which we don't talk about electronic, because that's video games, you know, and as much as we can mention and chat about those, that's not really why we're here, except sometimes when it's like, oh, it's based on a tabletop RPG. And that, these kind of, like, have filled the void, I think, and, like, unfortunately, I think, almost drowned out a lot of the voices of, like, other forms of creativity, you know.
So.
Yeah. But the wargaming, that's something that's there. Single player stuff, that's something that's there. And then sort of almost like, I would say, like the LARPing. All of these are looked on differently, I think, unfortunately, by the role-playing community than they probably should be.
Yeah,
maybe?
they usually are. People have a ton of opinions, especially about LARPing.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, is more like the social discord between like the superiority that tabletop RPGs kind of have over some of these other ones. Like, I mean, I know people who are like, oh, war games, it's just like, you know, people who don't, people who role play without the like role playing, you know. But it's like you know, it's like the battle part of the role playing game. But it's like, you know, it's kind of more than that. Some, you know, I mean, people do role play.
A large part of wargaming is setting up a role-playing scenario. Either you are reenacting some kind of battle that happened in lore or in real life, because there are historical miniature games. I do play one of them. I do play Bold Action, very good game. Or you are making up your own campaign for the world you're in.
And the more I think about it, for something like a LARP, it's a system where maybe you have more than one GM, because I, as a GM, oftentimes have to act out characters, you know? Well, me, like, if I have a big enough group and me and a team of people, I'm doing the same thing. It's just that we're standing around doing it, you know, and maybe
physical activity,
playing rock, paper, scissors to do instead of dice rolls or something, you know? It still retains that essence, I guess, is what I kind of think. And shouldn't
as far as LARPing goes, though, it's really more the stigma of how silly it looks from the outside.
It is very silly.
Yeah.
It is miniatures gaming, because you're just playing with plastic toys.
I think that's the thing, is like, when you're on the outside, it looks a lot differently than when you're on the inside, and it's just, I feel like they're good expressions of the genre that is role-playing games, and we shouldn't have the stigma against them, but we do. I think it's, again, like... go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's like, there really is kind of, as I think about it, all these other things kind of are really just stigmas of role-playing. It's like, tabletop RPGs, you either don't understand it, or you can, so, with an RPG, the tabletop RPG, there's the people outside who just don't understand it at all, and those people basically almost always don't even know enough to judge it, unless it's something they've heard on the news. But if you get into it, you can usually understand it pretty quickly. The other ones, though, look very silly from the outside. Playing by yourself, playing with miniatures, or playing, or acting things out in real life. All of them have something that look extra silly from the outside, whereas TTRPGs, as they stand, generally don't have that kind of obvious weirdness, which is, I think, why they actually have become the least stigmatic part of this whole collection of games.
I mean, it's sort of like, I think the stigmas that were with the pen and paper RPGs, thanks to 5th edition, have actually disappeared. Because it got popularity, that kind of stigma associated with it kind of went away. And I think that's the unfortunate thing, is it didn't do a lot to remove the stigmas from the other branches of RPGs, where it did for itself. And again, there's other non-traditional things.
Henry Cavill's doing a real good job of trying to remove that stigma from Warhammer, from miniature wargaming.
Nothing will save Warhammer. Warhammer is insanity. I don't mind Warhammer. Warhammer is insanity. The lore of Warhammer is insanity. That's where they lost me.
Fine, mostly.
I heard something that, like, they finally were bringing it to a close, and they're probably just going to restart it all over again or something.
They did that with fantasy already, and people hated it. But I think they're on the 3rd edition of Age of Sigmar. People are starting to like it now because the rules have been refined to a point that they're very similar to original Warhammer Fantasy in their complex. I don't really play 40k. I usually only play Fantasy Warhammer. So, I mean, if they're gonna redo it, they're gonna piss off a lot of people.
I think
Well, I was more talking...
Right.
Yeah, it was more of the lore that I heard they were gonna redo. Like, something
I mean,
about...
They're kind of changing things slowly, from my understanding. Going back through and updating some more.
I think some other things that I can, like, because I was trying to, like, look up some other, like, weird ways of role-playing, and even if we back off and go even dive into TTRPGs, there are some that have more of a stigma against them. Deadlands, where you have playing cards associated with a lot of things. That's a thing that, like, people... It has a stigma about it, you know? It's a little off there. Like, when I hear about Deadlands and their stuff, and certainly I've heard people talk about the playing cards, and maybe not the most positive light, makes me kind of like, is that really a great system in mind? And it's a very unique and interesting system. Or something that has a little bit more popularity is, hey, what about something like Dread, where you play Jenga as part of your role-playing experience?
Or Everyone is John, where you have no rolling at all. It's just entirely improv.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's another one to talk here. The improv RPG, where stats don't really exist, if they do at all. The setup is very loose. And yes, they're not going to be long sessions. They're not going to be multiple sessions usually. There's usually one session kind of things. But I guess that is the one session RPG period, is another kind of like extension of all these things.
Yeah, there are like have you heard of like role-playing forums where it's all like almost like groups that like role-play?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of that free-form thing, but like everyone's apart, and it's like this. Everyone just writes at their own time as things move on.
Being involved in stuff like that, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it also exists in, like, you know, moving back, that this idea of the essence of what a role-playing game is taking on a role. We see that in other things too, because that came into mind, which I never got into, and nor did I have any interest in seeing when I saw some people doing it, is something like the GTA role-playing kind of communities that, like, formed. That was an entire thing, and that is an essence of role-playing, where you play a game and you add a layer of it that's social interaction.
I mean,
I can't say that's any... go ahead.
You finish it.
I can't say that's any worse than something like, honestly, everybody's John, and games like that. It's just, instead of doing it in person, you're laying it over a video game like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, because I'm very deep in the Final Fantasy community, I know of a ton of people who, for Final Fantasy 14, they only play on roleplay servers, where you mostly just ignore the actual story of the game, and you just pretend to be a person in that world. And there are actual, like, hard set rules for it and everything like that. It's actually really cool.
Also,
it's personally not really my thing, but I know a bunch of people who are really into it.
I've also heard of Minecraft roleplay servers, which, like, you know, they're like people who like build the whole thing, and then everyone just roleplays in like that setting.
I think it's the idea that, unfortunately, I don't think it exists as much anymore either, with a lot of, like, this RPG renaissance we've had, thanks to the effects of things like Kickstarter and stuff, where we can get a lot more out here. Is there used to be, even like 5 years ago, this more idea against traditional versus non-traditional RPGs in general. And certainly, even in amongst, like, things like LARPs and all that stuff that we're talking about that have a lot of age, they were always seen as a little bit non-traditional during those times. This concepts of non-traditional versus traditional, I think, just doesn't really exist as much anymore, where we can have a game that maybe, like, fits 50% of the criteria of, like, a traditional game, and then just adds in some weird shit that just is completely different and off the brooks, like playing a card game in order to figure out if you're winning, or, you know, what about dominoes? Someone does a dominoes-based RPG or something like that, you know? It's weird.
Was that game talked about on here or not? There's a game where, like, you all pretend to be mermaids. And
I think we've talked about it.
I can't remember that myself.
I've got a lot of stuff.
The premise was that basically, the role-playing game uses sticky hands, glitter, and a dildo.
No, I don't think we've talked about that one. You know what? Fair enough. Right? Whatever it takes to get your game working.
All right then.
Man, there's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The goal is to wrap the sticky hand around the dildo, and like if you succeed, then your story plays out.
You could use definitely a better prop for that, but you know.
It's because the idea is you're playing mermaids trying to seduce people on a ship. That's I think the whole idea of it. So
I understand, but also yes, you could just
use something else.
Just use something else, but I understand. I guess I guess it's a thing that it's the essence of what is roleplay, and a role-playing game is a core part of when we talk about tabletop role-playing more than anything, but what it is can be, more open to interpretation if you go beyond just the TTRP genre to the RPG genre, which is the core of it.
Yeah.
And the experience, which is what tabletop should be, is really just you having fun with friends. And it's unfortunate that I think because of the evolution of things like the virtual tabletops, it's you can't say in person or with other people anymore, because so many of us do this stuff online now. So what's the difference between those of us who play in, let's say, D&D on Roll20 and those of us that are fucking around in Final Fantasy XIV's world and doing basically the same thing, just with a mechanics that's based in less on a book and more in the actual system you're using. Like, if Roll20 had a Roll20 system almost. It's there really shouldn't be a distinction, I think. I guess.
You can play it any way that makes you happy.
Yeah, and I really do think it is kind of important to know that, I think that roleplay itself is just a thing that people do. I mean, and it's probably been done long before tabletop role-playing games existed. And there really is a point, though, where, now that I think about it, I think a big reason role-playing games are so successful is because of the rule systems, as opposed to a lot of these other ones, which generally play off each other more and require everyone to cooperate.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many, horror stories I've heard from people who participate in these things where it's like, oh yeah, there was this one guy who just wanted to always be right or be the center of the story, or, And I think that's what makes a lot of these other ones a lot less successful, is that they don't have the rules to keep those people from overpowering everyone else and ruining them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for something like Dread, where you're playing Jenga, if you're an expert Jenga player, you can fuck around with anything,
There's no such thing.
I mean,
Jenga player. The tower is going to fall at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there's ballsy and bold Jenga players. I've seen people knock a piece out, the whole tower falls and stays standing.
Exactly.
Oh, God. I think it's also, too, that, when we talk about something like the video game role-playing or the forum role-playing, there are people that watch it. There are, in fact, GMs, There are forum managers or people that watch a server, and make sure to maintain the rules. It's the same thing as
fucking Final Fantasy XIV. There are people who run actual businesses in fucking housing districts and make actual in-game money. It is it's insane.
It's interesting to think about that the evolution of what we understand to be role-playing and role-playing games is as vast as it is. That if I would have talked about this even a decade ago, it would have been a very different conversation, I think. These things would feel a lot more separate than they do now. And I think that's the thing is, I could almost be they're loosely attached together, but how the genre has evolved and how much we've had for material has meant that there is this interconnectivity between things like LARPing and video game role-playing and forum role-playing and your traditional tabletop role-playing and, you know, single-player games and all the other things in between, all the other weird things. We feel more connected. And I do hope that, like, some of the stigmas that do exist between us all would disappear more. And certainly, yeah, I find LARPing still a little bit silly, but I don't think I've ever been, like, against someone that LARPs. I'd just be like, you do you. Honestly, for me, personally, it's just, I went there once, and the hand signals were just a little silly. I tried to participate. I just found it silly.
I will never not cringe at your LARPing, but I will support your be cringe.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do kind of admire, like, I think part of me, even if there wasn't, like, a costume restriction, part of me might not have actually, part of me would have probably gone to them just to watch, but there's part of me that just cannot do something that I know looks embarrassing. And it's more of a social stigma. It's things, a lot of people have this, which is, I think, why there are other people who like to make fun of people who do that. But realistically, I mean, more power to you to not care what other people think.
I've gotten a lot better at being willing to embarrass myself since I started playing stream D&D.
I've been streaming for 6 years. I gave up on embarrassing myself. I can't pronounce anything.
Your streams are like, anytime you have to read something, it is actually embarrassing. Like, you have like super dyslexia or something. You should get checked.
No, see, his problem isn't dyslexia. His problem is because he actually does try to pronounce things.
I think the whole brain might be the issue up there.
I have been broken for a long time. Don't worry about it.
At some point, you were broken as an individual, and it's really just persistent.
Nothing could fix it. Trust me, I know that. Look, back when I was a kid and went to some therapy, they tried medications. None of them worked because all of them had really terrible side effects.
Yeah.
I can't be medicated for my problem.
Your body just doesn't like being medicated.
They might have developed something better by now, but my problems is not as bad as they used to be. They're worse.
You're coping, Campus. You're coping.
Anyway. So yeah, that's... I think that's a pretty good discussion on LARPing and other forms of role-playing, because it kind of brings into this interesting discussion on what is role-playing and our existence as a genre that we've been enjoying. And we hope people enjoy too. And the thing is, here's what I'm going to say. For those of you who are out here listening that maybe don't get into the tabletop role-playing side of just tabletop, guess what? You're still doing an essence of it, even when you're doing your random board games. It's mild, but, you know...
Yeah, but there are a lot of board games that have that mild roleplay element.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. You know, as much as you'd like to deny it. I can say, if you look at the essence of it, you can easily understand and grasp the concept of what you're playing as for any tabletop game, because they're supposed to be that way. You're taking on a role.
Yeah.
Fucking Catan, where you're a bunch of settlers on an island competing for, like, the best resources and positioning. Like, just think of it as, like, you're a bunch of different nations from Europe that stole this island and probably murdered the natives and taken it over.
If you have ever played a video game in your entire life, congratulations, you've dabbled in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because almost every video game, to some degree, has a roleplay element to it.
Yeah. You take on the role and you play the game. So, all right. Is that it for today? I think that might be it for today.
Probably.
I have to find my like. Yeah, that's it. That's all the things that we have for today. All right, everyone out there. Thanks for joining. Thank you to Worm and Momo for joining me. Either of you got anything to shout out? Worm, you got anything to shout out?
I don't.
Yeah, I am... You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm and @DiamondWyrm on Twitter. Also, note that, like, I will be I usually stream at around 10:30 PT on Saturdays and Sundays.
I remember these Twitch chat commands. Isn't there one for a shout out command that's newer that I do?
I technically have a Twitch channel.
It's newer one here. There we go. Cool. I've looked it up quickly. Did that work? Hey, look at that! I did good.
I mean, I have a Twitch channel. I just don't. I haven't streamed in like 2 years.
Well, if you ever get back to it, then I can give you a shot.
Straight to my stream.
I mean, I have the time now. I might, or I might not. I don't know. I have like brain issues where I can't sit still for 5 minutes.
I understand these problems. So, let's see here. Where was I? For me, schedule. Tabletop next week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Don't know what I'm doing on Tuesday yet. Thursday will be Pathfinder stuff. Saturday will be World of Darkness stuff. This show every Saturday at 6 p.m. EST if you want to check it out. Live on twitch.tv//Dracovin Empire. I video game Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Check those out. Next week is going to be Chrono Trigger Random Mind or Jest of Time. Me checking out a random game from my Steam library, and then Fallout 4 on Friday. YouTube channel if you're on Twitch and not checking out on YouTube. Twitch channel if you're on Twitch, YouTube and not checking out on Twitch. Go to the other one and follow Twitch, subscribe YouTube, leave comments, thumbs up, whatever all the crap that stuff is. Give some support. Interact.
Videos in the algorithm.
Yeah, there you go. And showing up drives
The
it here.
algorithm, man.
You know, it's
Watching.
showing up helps it here, you know, even if you just mute the tab and hang out or something. Or if you're actually watching it, great! Say something next time. Or if you're just joining on the YouTube side, interact. And then Twitter, Discord for myself, which are linked in various descriptions for my brain farts and schedule. Anyway, I think that's good enough for today. I can't remember anything else I'm supposed to say, because there's so much you have to do to support your brand and stuff, and it breaks my brain sometimes. So I tried. Anyway, bye everybody. Thank you again to my guest host for joining, and have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.